Chapter 404. Luonan felt like a dog. Xie Junping and his group didn't show up when he needed them. But when it was the most awkward time, they danced around happily. It was fine if they came, but Mo Pang and Mo Han didn't have fun at the reality battlefield and the uncanny valley. Why did they come back? Actually, Mo Pang and Mo Han came back because they were worried. They didn't understand. Why did Luonan fight so well in the hero seat and then give up in such a great situation? His wristband said that he was fine, but how could it be accurate? Mo Pang and Mo Han came back, and the others came back with a clamor. Only Yu Qin and Turner were missing. Those two were probably embarrassed by Yu Zheng's actions and deliberately hid. But who could compare to Luonan in embarrassment? His intimate actions with cat eyes were completely seen by that bastard Xie Junping. Oh, there was also Shui Lei. Even if the angle was a bit off, Xie Junping's reaction was more or less the same. Yes, it was Xie Junping's reaction. That bro's reaction was too exaggerated. Not only was he stunned at the door, he actually wanted to turn around and walk out. Walk out my ass. Even if Luonan and Cat Eyes did have a bit of an ambiguous relationship. Well, even if they really kissed, why are you pretending to be pure? Aren't you just luring others to think in the wrong direction? Luonan took a deep breath. Cat Eyes' wine fragrance still lingered in his mouth and nose, including the delicate touch of her hair against his lips. This abruptly woke him up, and he suddenly felt a bit of gratitude towards this old driver. Due to the haste of the matter, he was stunned on the spot. He didn't know how to make evasive movements. He still maintained an extremely intimate and ambiguous relationship with Cat Eyes. In reality, it was just lips kissing forehead. If Xie Junping hadn't reacted too quickly and messed up the formation, Mo Pang, Mo Han, and the others would have definitely seen them. Then they would have exploded. Luckily, he could still salvage the situation. Luonan suddenly straightened his back and stood up. His knees bumped into the coffee table due to the haste. The sound of the crash was quite clear in the room. Xie Junping was quickly pushed in by the door. Mo Pang and Mo Han also swarmed in. The originally empty luxury room was instantly filled to the brim. The fruit and drinks Xie Junping brought weren't afraid that no one would be able to digest. Luonan took advantage of the chaos to drag his aching legs 2 steps outside. He nearly bumped into Shui Lei, who was returning with a tray of wine. His best friend shifted his body to maintain the balance of the wine tray. He was as dedicated as a real bartender, and he had an innocent expression that said, "I don't know anything" on his face. However, his flickering eyes had long since betrayed him. It was a standard weapon of mass destruction. It was impossible to control. Mo Pang said, "Could it be an indecent relationship or an Azura field?" "Don't talk nonsense. Maybe they're just friends despite the difference in age. But the problem right now is that the girls Nanster is dating are all older than him. This trend isn't right. Why is it like this? I heard that little Nanster's family situation." "What about my family?" "I'm talking about his birth parents. His parents aren't by his side. He misses them for a long time and so on. Maybe his Oedipus complex is a bit heavy?" "Searched to death." Luonan nearly crushed the empty glass in his hand. "Can you two be any louder? Don't you know that a good half of the people in the room are ability users? You're trying to ruin me." Before he could finish his thought, 2 people in the room had already spat. Papercut had just taken a glass of alcohol from Shui Lei and took a sip. He had come back late, so he didn't see the most awkward moments. He lacked resistance, and now he collapsed from being teased. It was only logical that he choked on the peat-flavored whiskey. The other person who spat was Xie Junping. It was just that he spat out mineral water. Ha! This was a bit odd. Luonan discovered that Xie Junping hadn't touched a drop of alcohol today. He didn't even drink a beverage. He just drank a glass of mineral water. Also, were Mo Pang and Mo Han whispering that loudly? Xie Junping, who was nearly 5 meters away, could actually hear them? When did his eyes and ears become so sharp? Luonan sized up Xie Junping seriously. The two hadn't met many times during this time. Luonan felt that Xie Junping had gotten a bit thinner, but his spirit wasn't bad. What was funny was that Xie Junping was wearing a very old-fashioned buttoned gown. It was the uniform of an old man who practiced his morning exercises. No matter how Luonan looked at it, Xie Junping looked completely out of place in the amusement center. Xie Junping had a very stiff appearance. It didn't seem like he was cosplaying or anything of the sort. Luo Nan thought back to the magical array and other elements that Luo Nan had mentioned before. The matter was quite odd, but it wasn't easy to ask about it. Then he saw Papercut's penetrating insight. People of the same age as Mo Pang and Mo Han shouldn't be placed together with Cat Eyes and the others. There were many topics that simply couldn't be discussed. Papercut was lucky enough to escape the misfortune of spitting out alcohol from his nostrils. He felt that he needed to increase the intensity of his brainwashing, so he ferociously told Mo Pang and the other young boys and girls, "People like us all like those mysterious things. We often get together and exchange our experiences. Cat Eyes and I just happened to be in the vicinity today, so we took the opportunity to come over and play. Please don't mind us if we usurp the host." Oh, no wonder Nanster wanted to join the Mystic Arts Research Society. Mo Pang knew of this situation, so he filled in the blanks in an instant. However, his gaze continued to move back and forth in the corner of the sofa. The Azura arena had nothing to do with one's hobbies. Mo Han's ability to accept these strange things was a bit lacking. She turned to look at her close friends. Mystic arts. Is it something like tarot cards? Tarot cards are very effective. Qiu Peipei, who had always been a person of few words, was actually a fan of the related field. She was a bit excited. This also ignited a small wave of discussion among the girls. Although it was far from Papercut's implicit description, wasn't this the most ideal situation? Luo Nan gave Papercut a thumbs up in his mind. He remembered that Papercut had said this back at Ocean Sky Cloud City. Back then, he had fooled Xie Junping and Hu Huaying. Now it was Mo Han and Mo Peng's turn. It could be said that Papercut and Luo Nan were echoing each other without a single flaw. Look, the Mystic Arts Society will definitely be able to help. Xie Junping turned his head to whisper to Du Yong. He had an expression that said, "Listen to me." Du Yong still had a mixture of impatience and skepticism on his face. There are many branches of the mystic arts. Magical arrays are a very specialized field. Papercut's ears were sharp. He tilted his head to look at Du Yong. "What did you just say? Magical arrays?" Du Yong's patience had long since been exhausted from the tedious introductions. All that was left was impatience. Papercut's question was the same as opening his mouth to release a flood. He didn't care what the situation was. He just raised his voice and said, "Recently, old Xie and I were at a club. We made contact with a fellow practitioner. He expressed that he could guide us through the door, but there was a threshold of spiritual awakening that required the assistance of a magical array." His voice was sharp and soft. He spoke quickly, and the field he touched upon was mysterious. In the time it took to say a few words, the group of boys and girls were already confused. Chapter 405. Seeing this, Papercut gave Du Yong a meaningful glance. He wanted Du Yong to slow down. However, Papercut still did not understand Du Yong. This neurotic fellow was already on the verge of collapsing from all his hard work. He would not stop talking. Hu Huaying saw the problem and wanted to stop him, but in the end, she was unable to. This brother was completely stuck inside. He just treated everyone present as part of the Mystic Arts Society. He minded his own business and said, "Let me use the projector." He fiddled with his wristband and connected the data to the projector. A dazzling complex diagram appeared in the center of the room's gaming area. It was a combination-type magical array, and it looked quite complete. The magical array was roughly divided into 4 layers. The overall composition was a deep blue color, and the symbols at the key nodes were dark red and dark gold. The overall color of the array was restrained, but it was very gorgeous. Wah! Mo Pang and the others gasped in surprise. A neatly pieced together, a perfectly organized diagram. It possessed a very artistic feeling. Those special symbols, configurations, and connecting lines were filled with a mysterious beauty that seemed awesome even though they did not understand it. They did not understand Du Yong's theory, but they could feel the shock from it. Of course, it was more suitable for their imaginations. Du Yong grew more and more irritable when he saw this diagram. He fiercely waved his hand twice, warping the light and shadow of the magical array. It took a moment for it to return to normal. "It's this damned format. Damn it. Luo Nan was quite sensitive when he heard the word format. He raised an eyebrow. It's not that format. It's the file format. Xie Junping knew what was bothering Luo Nan. He saw that his companion was unable to communicate normally, so he took the initiative to explain, the wristband doesn't support the file format of this design diagram. We can only enter read-only mode and look at the projection. However, the computer in the projector in the private room was fine, so we copied it and modified it. We didn't expect it to suddenly reset, so we didn't have time to save it. All our efforts were gone. However, even if we didn't save it, the verification itself had failed. He was in a terrible mood in the VIP room, but he calmed down when he arrived at Luo Nan's side. He even laughed at himself. Just a little bit more. Du Yong roared at Xie Junping, but his sharp and gentle voice didn't seem threatening at all. It's all your fault. You should have given up earlier. Why did you cancel the subscription? Xie Junping spoke to him kindly. You've already tried more than 10 times before. Do you remember what tutor said? If you make the same mistake 3 times, it will exceed the limits of rationality. You are full of doqi after that. I think it's not wrong to ask you to calm down. It's rare to see Xie Junping reasoning with someone. Luo Nan snickered to himself, but Papercut came over and whispered, Do you think of anything when you see this thing? Yes, something not so good. Luo Nan knew what Papercut was talking about. Last time at Fudong Main Street's Frost River Reality, it was also a magic array. It was also a member of Acumen College's Mystic Arts Research Society. His name was Huang something. Just like that, the forged human-faced arachnid became the experimental product of the Order of Justice. Luo Nan was still extremely sensitive to such matters. Luo Nan's gaze rested on the projection of the magic array. From the perspective of the mystic arts, Luo Nan didn't have much to say. At most, he had a bit of a basic concept. However, from the perspective of the operational structure of energy and information, he had a bit of a right to speak. He tried to straighten out the order laws and principles inside, and he started with a 3-level structure of formatting theory out of habit. He was entranced for a time. On the other side, Papercut directly asked Luo Nan, This magic array can be used immediately, right? What I mean is that you don't need to arrange and engrave it. You just need to use the light from the projector. Yes. This is what tutor meant. Du Yong nodded like he was pounding garlic. He was actually able to see this point with a single glance. Du Yong's confidence in Papercut and the society instantly rose. Did you hear that? Hey. Papercut wanted to talk privately with Luo Nan, but he saw that this bro was already entranced. Papercut could only give Luo Nan a light nudge, telling him not to rush into a domain that others could not understand. First, figure out the surrounding information. Once you have a direction, you can talk about professional matters. This way, you don't have to worry too much. This was the advice of a veteran. Luo Nan was quite convinced. However, Luo Nan really did have a vague idea after sweeping a few glances, and it wasn't from formatting theory. It was a very rare situation. Luo Nan reluctantly glanced a few more times, temporarily turning his mind to the plane of reality. He inexplicably glanced over and saw that Cat Eyes had been tasting wine in the sandy corner all this time. She had poured an unknown number of cups. Cat Eyes is in a bad mood. I can tell that she's in a bad mood. Let's not bother her for now. Papercut indicated for the two of them to go first. He felt that Luo Nan wasn't paying attention, so he repeated the information he got from Du Yong. Only then did he laugh. It's a very familiar situation, right? Luo Nan nodded. Papercut wasn't present at the time. He must have read the operation briefing in detail afterward. And the main source of information for this briefing was Luo Nan. Of course, he wouldn't forget. It's exactly the same as last time. Are you talking about the Order of Justice? It shouldn't be. Chapter 406. Do they really think they're the creator? Luo Nan was astonished. They sure have a big tone. Is it some world-class order? This is where the problem lies. Papercut shrugged. I just did a search. There's no relevant information in the database. Neither the society nor the military and political departments of Xia City have any records of this. In other words, it's very likely that this is a new order, a new power that hasn't entered everyone's line of sight. Aren't you going to consult the secretary about this new information? Luo Nan blinked. Sister Yuan? Trouble her? Is this a rare situation? Papercut nodded. New orders that are so organized right from the start are indeed rare. Actually, there have been very few new orders in recent years. After all, the area covered by the inner world is growing larger and larger. You know what I mean. Luo Nan really did understand. As the influence of the inner world on the society of the modern world grew stronger and stronger, their ability to unearth and nurture talents was enough to minimize the existence of undiscovered pearls. Under these circumstances, an extremely mature new order suddenly popped out from a crack in the rock. Everyone couldn't help but think in a more conservative direction. Luo Nan was about to contact He Yuan, but he had second thoughts. It would be best to let her take a look at the magical array. It could be considered a reference. He tried to communicate with Du Yong. Can you make a copy of the magical array? No problem. Du Yong was so straightforward that it was suspicious. Xie Junping gave an additional explanation. According to what the instructor said, the matter of spiritual awakening should be done by gathering the wisdom of all parties. There should also be the help of friends to obtain the best plan. There's no need to be so secretive and secretive. It looked like a very open-minded order. Luo Nan and Papercut glanced at each other. Papercut asked in a seemingly casual manner, "Is it convenient for you to introduce the instructor who led you in? Perhaps you know him." Xie Junping was truly magnanimous to a certain extent. He didn't even stumble. His last name is Wan. We all call him Dean Wan. He works in a welfare home in the Forest Wall district. He's truly capable. This sort of information acquisition simply didn't give one any sense of accomplishment. Luo Nan was shaking his head when a light bulb suddenly flashed in his mind. A scene appeared in his mind. It was the memory of him controlling ink to probe the Forest Wall district last week when he was outsourced scouting. He had once seen an ability user there. The ability user had the intention of preaching and preaching. Even children as far away as Trigate district went over to listen. Could it be that person? Of course, it was wrong to make random guesses, but the combination of preaching and Forest Wall area and other factors increased the chances of success. What are you afraid of? Du Yong was truly shocked by his terrible memory. He shook his head over and over. At this time, he displayed an extremely repulsive mentality toward all non-professionals. It was impossible to communicate with this kind of neurotic person. Papercut understood this point very well. He turned to look at the group of boys and girls. You guys aren't going to play? We professionals. Enthusiasts can discuss it here. Emohan looked at him with wide eyes. Hey. Are you guys trying to clear the place and drive people away? Papercut obviously wouldn't bicker with a little girl. He turned to ask Luo Nan, how about we change locations first? He felt that things like data migration couldn't be simpler with the Hexa ear. He could also logically separate people. Many things would be easier to talk about. But when he turned his gaze over, he saw that Luo Nan was staring at the magic array without looking away. Luo Nan turned a deaf ear to Papercut's suggestion. Papercut could only bump Luo Nan again helplessly. Ha! Oh, hold on. It wasn't easy for Luo Nan to come out this time. He casually responded with a few words, but his gaze remained fixed on the structure of the magic array. He even extended his hand to touch it. Du Yong's tolerance toward this fellow traveler was much higher. He especially liked Luo Nan's ability to concentrate. He even had some expectations. He couldn't help but ask, "You have some inspiration?" "Yes, I have an idea. I feel that this magic array lacks a bit of texture." "Which one?" "Texture. The reality of matter." Luo Nan also needed someone to communicate with him. He observed as he organized his words, "If you view the magic array as a building, then the structure and lines are viewed as rooms and pipelines. Your template is more like a blueprint. There are no materials. There are no fillers. It's just a three-dimensional diagram." What Luo Nan didn't say was that the magic array that Huang had set up last time had a solid medium. It was intrinsically a level higher than this one. It wasn't the fault of the map. It was the gap between people. And this gap wasn't in mystic arts knowledge. Du Yong was the former president of the Mystic Arts Research Society. He was a level higher than Huang, who didn't do proper work. Then, it was very likely that it was thoughts, desires, and other existences on the mental plane. Luo Nan didn't continue this train of thought. He wasn't a believer of the order of creation. faith and desires had nothing to do with him. He was more interested in other directions. Could this texture be replaced by other means? More specifically, by the power of the soul or the power of interference. Papercut didn't want to disturb Luo Nan when he saw Luo Nan's state. The world in the eyes of a genius like Luo Nan was intrinsically different from others. The angle and depth in which he looked at problems were greatly different. The four of them blocked him tightly. No matter how good his skills were, it was impossible for him to break through. Sure enough, he shouldn't have come. What should have been a relaxing and pleasant journey of face-slapping had turned him into the spearhead. That fellow Zhu Ling was not on the same path as him. That was why he had fallen into such a plight. It must be known that this was Frost River Reality Area A. It was one of the most densely populated areas in all of Xia City. This was especially true since this was Cloud City Water Village, a large residential area. The people who came and went were players from the surrounding colleges and high schools. They overlapped greatly with his life circle. He fell here with his four limbs facing the sky. His nose was overflowing with blood, and juice was splashed all over his face. There seemed to be flashing lights all around him. There was no need for tomorrow. Tonight, his dignified appearance would be spread to every major college forum. This was Zhu Maoshuan's final rational thought. In the next moment, whatever face-slapping plan he had completely collapsed. Zhu Maoshuan roared as he pushed away Yu Zheng, who was still in a stupefied state. He struggled to get up and casually picked up the large cup of juice beside him. Disregarding everything else, he smashed it towards the most densely populated area in front of him. "I'll chop you bastards to pieces." A muffled crash rang out, followed by the screams of a girl. He Weiyin and the others had been emphasizing similar requirements in their lectures for some time now. Luo Nan immediately published this information in the temporary mission window. There's a suspected B-rank burner and a C-rank burner. The two should be together. Their location is above Frost River Reality. Papercut was really worried that Luo Nan wouldn't be able to take it and cause more trouble. He pulled Luo Nan to the corner of the sofa, talking as they walked. This is why many people don't like the secular world. When it came down to it, there were a bunch of rules. The more people he knew, the more restrictions there were. Look at Lei Zi, that punch was really cool, but it's going to take a long time. He might even have to go to court. Luonan sat down on the sofa. This time, Luonan paid more attention to Cat Eyes. Papercut was between him and Cat Eyes. "Brother Papercut, how do you usually handle things?" "Me." In the middle of the night, he sent a bunch of paper dolls to his house for a party. "Yeah, that's about it." Luo Nan felt that Luo Nan's expression was certainly very peculiar right now. Papercut chuckled. "With supernatural powers, how could I still strictly follow the logic of the secular world? Unless this world has enough power to counter us." On the sofa, Cat Eyes gently swirled her wine glass and cast a sidelong glance. "You're sick." Papercut didn't get angry. "I'm just saying, right? Also, put yourself in the shoes of others. If you use abnormal logic to deal with others, others will use abnormal logic to deal with you. We're in Xia City, so it's a bit better. Look at Red Fox. He was eradicating evil and eliminating evil. But what happened to him in the end? Sometimes, I really want to be controlled by someone. I want to follow a set of rules and live a peaceful life. Headquarters might have been able to do it in the past. Unfortunately, it's impossible to count on those bastards right now." Luo Nan handed over a fruit platter as a form of consolation. He asked casually, "How many ability users are like you guys?" Papercut picked up a few apple slices. "What do you mean by like you guys?" Luo Nan thought for a moment and said, "You guys have a proper job in society, earn money to support yourself, and follow the rules of the secular world most of the time." Of the ability users he knew, Cat Eyes taught dancing, Papercut had his own craft store, Octopus and Mr. White were doctors, Mr. Giant Arm ran a dojo, and Her Majesty Empress Wu ran a firm. They were all very close to the secular world. However, there were also people like President Ouyang who wholeheartedly devoted themselves to research. There were also people like Bamboo Pole who were more of a homebody and only served his peers. Cragburst and Red Fox didn't have stable jobs either, but their days were still quite comfortable. Just like this, the inner world and the secular world converged and separated. It was complicated and interwoven. Many times, It was impossible to grasp the corresponding pulse. It was very vexing. Papercut opened his mouth to answer, but he suddenly remembered that he still had a mission tonight. He turned his head with a smile and said to Cat Eyes, "How about you explain it a bit?" Cat Eyes' expression didn't change. She poured the peat-flavored wine down her throat. She sneered leisurely, but she was disinclined to pay attention to him. Papercut didn't insist. He shrugged and said, "This is the way of the world. The barrier between ability users and secular society is indeed getting thinner and thinner. There are people who oppose this trend. There are people who approve of it. There are people who let nature take its course. Xia City has fewer rules and regulations. There are many people who let nature take its course. But in other cities, there are quite a few people who are very passionate about infiltrating. They want to realize the era of ability users. There are also some people who are very determined to maintain their distance and maintain their bloodline." It was unknown which sentence aroused her interest, but Cat Eyes downed the wine in her cup in one gulp. She suddenly spoke. "Actually, they're all the same. The faction of people above people." Luo Nan understood in an instant. So they feel that they're higher than normal people? Misophobia or the desire to dominate? Cat Eyes laughed to herself as she spoke. She cast a sidelong glance at Luo Nan. For example, a certain someone. Boss Luo. What do you think? This topic was off topic. Plus, it didn't seem like an inquiry. It seemed more like sarcasm. Luo Nan didn't want to answer, nor did he feel the need to. Xie Junping just so happened to finish making a round of phone calls. He walked over and said, "Nanster, I got some information. That Zhu Ling is the son of Zhu Maoshuan's uncle. He joined the military many years ago. Recently, he was transferred from the City Defense Army to the Coastal Defense Army. He's already a lieutenant colonel. I heard he's a burner." Burner? The Coastal Defense Army? Luo Nan and Papercut locked gazes. They immediately thought of the two people upstairs. No matter how many burners there were in Xia City, no matter how many talents there were in the Coastal Defense Army, they couldn't just randomly pick a B+ rank big shot, right? It's 80% likely. This damn luck. Who is it? Xie Junping didn't want to quarrel with that bro Zhu Maoshuan. He sat on the sofa, leaned back, and groaned. Only now did he show a bit of the elegant demeanor of a hedonistic young master from before. Luo Nan observed a bit through the perspective of the living starry sky. He felt that Xie Junping's constellation projection really did have some subtle changes. However, the most important thing right now was to investigate the person suspected to be Tian Bang. Luo Nan didn't have any enmity right now, but if a grudge were to form because of his relationship with Zhu Maoshuan and Zhu Ling, then it would be a headache to deal with it. Luo Nan was just about to go investigate when a voice rang out from the door. Everyone had sharp ears and eyes. They heard the voice over there. "Tianxi, you're here too? Perfect. Call everyone over. Let's discuss how to deal with this." Who was this? The voice was a bit familiar, but what left a deeper impression was the arrogant and bossy attitude. At first, one would think that a big boss like President Ouyang or Her Majesty Empress Wu had personally come. Luo Nan really didn't remember who it was for the time being, but Xie Junping, who had just relaxed, suddenly sat up straight. What's he doing here? In any case, he doesn't come with good intentions. This bro will seize the opportunity to put on a show or two. I'm afraid Tianxi won't be able to handle it. As he spoke, Xie Junping hastily got up and walked over. Luo Nan and Papercut glanced at each other. Luo Nan split a bit of attention to quickly confirm the other's identity. Chen Weikan, the vice president of the Student Council of Acumen College, the president of the Mutual Assistance Association. He had an elite face, but it was hard to have a good impression of this fellow. Right now, Chen Weikan was wearing a casual suit. It didn't quite match the atmosphere of Frost River reality. However, his posture was tall and straight. His every movement was very stylish. He really did attract the attention of others when he walked in through the door. However, if he were to maintain this posture and walk into the crowd, it was hard to say whether or not the loyal Xue Lei would give him an iron fist. Chen Weikan didn't pay attention to Xue Lei. It could be said that he didn't pay attention to anyone. He was just a bit dissatisfied with Tianxi, who stood there stiffly. Tianxi wasn't as quick-witted as usual, but he didn't say much. He just waved his hand and strengthened his body language. At the same time, He used his wristband to talk to someone else. I also hope that Frost River Reality can deal with this in a timely manner. I don't want the existence of some black sheep to affect the good reputation of the students. All right. Manager Ian. You'll be here soon, right? All right. We'll talk when you arrive. Chen Wei can let out a light breath and his expression relaxed a bit. He turned his eyes and saw that Tianxi was still standing there. He was a bit surprised. Everyone has been summoned? Everyone is here. The police officer is here too. What's the point of summoning? Xie Junping walked closer and said with a chuckle, Vice President Chen, it's rare to see you come to a place like Frost River Reality. Which honored guest are you entertaining? Chen Weizan's gaze swept across Xie Junping's face. There was no emotion. There was no hostility. It was more like he was ignoring Xie Junping. But if one were to say that he was arrogant, it seemed that his mind was a bit scattered. Luo Nan observed and sensed from the side. It was a bit strange. However, what attracted his attention the most was the person Chen Weican was talking to. His surname was Ian, and he was the manager of Frost River Reality. Could it be? Before he could finish his thought, Luo Nan was reminded. Soon, the wraith sign searched the vicinity of the luxurious room. It didn't have the guts to touch its true master, Luo Nan. The rest of the ability users didn't enter its eyes. From this point of view, the current wraith sign was a picky eater. It wouldn't eat it rashly. It was extremely easy to raise. It was also a street sweeper that devoured the avatars of other faced spiders. Its contribution to society had skyrocketed. Luo Nan laughed involuntarily when his thoughts reached this point. But soon, he was unable to laugh. B+ rank burners were already extremely profound on the spiritual plane. When their hostility manifested, the pressure was even greater. At this time, they had already entered the Abyss region and continued to explore deeper, searching level by level. Yes, search, that's right. Luo Nan finally understood. It was a bit far-fetched to say that the B+ rank burner was targeting Yin Lu. After all, Yin Lu was a famous character in both the mortal world and the inner world. A suspected important member of the military actually wanted to set up a trap to target her. There were many aspects that didn't make sense. But if the factor of the human-faced arachnid was added, the relevant reason instantly became sufficient. After all, the human-faced arachnid was the most dangerous dark-side life form that the military and political departments of Xia City had joined hands to obliterate. This reason alone was enough to suppress everything else. Luo Nan saw a wisp of fiery smoke continue to spiral upwards. The Abyss region wasn't enough. It continued to go deeper, gradually approaching the boundary between the Abyss region and the Polar region. The most terrifying thing was the aura of life within the fiery smoke. It was a faint wisp, but its foundation was strong. It was like the fragrance of meat. The fragrance rose in spirals after being roasted by the smoke and fire. The human-faced arachnid hadn't been found yet, but this idiot, driven by instinct, was gradually unable to restrain himself from the fragrance of meat that drifted over. It became quite restless. If Luo Nan's thoughts hadn't intervened in time, this idiot would have probably charged over in delight. Then it would fall head-first into the trap. Now the situation was clear. This was a trap. A trap targeted at Yin Lu, targeted at the human-faced arachnid, and even targeted at the Blood Flame Order. Chen Weican was the bait of the real world. He had lured Yin Lu over. The B+ rank burner was the hunter. He specialized in targeting the human-faced arachnid. He had used a technique to lure it. These two might not be the only participants. The officer called Zhu Ling was most likely one of them. And no matter how many participants there were, no matter which power was behind the scenes, one thing was certain. They had obtained extremely accurate information. Think about it. How long had it been since Yin Lu took control of the human-faced arachnid? The degree of focus and intensity had already exceeded the scope of normal attention. The conversation that had been within his control suddenly couldn't continue. At this time Xie Junping opened his mouth and asked, "Nanster you?" Luo Nan laughed. "Everything's fine here. Let's go home." Xie Junping was stunned. But when he heard these words, even Cat Eyes, who was usually indifferent to him on the sofa, stood up with a cold snort. Tianxi, Papercut, Xue Lei, and the others directly started walking. They felt inexplicably excited. He shrugged and pushed Du Yong, who still didn't know what was going on, to keep up with them. He laughed and said, "Then let's get out of here." Several people moved, forming a chain effect. Hu Huaying, Mo Peng, Luo Biao, and the others instinctively moved as well. The standoff in the private room suddenly collapsed. For the fastest and most accurate novel reading, please visit Chapter 410. The group of people didn't leave just like that. Some people, like Luo Nan, had already unloaded their peripheral equipment due to the haste of the incident just now. Others hadn't. Even if they wanted to leave, they had to finish their business. The room was in a mess. But no matter how chaotic it was, everything was in accordance with Luo Nan's will. It didn't matter what Chen Weiken said at this time. It was meaningless. Chen Weiken did not look too good. His failure to control the field was secondary. The most crucial problem was that his target, Yin Lu, had clearly been affected by Luo Nan. She was a bit absent-minded and probably had thoughts of leaving. Chen Weisan's thoughts spun rapidly and he decided to make some slight adjustments. He took advantage of the fact that Luo Nan had yet to leave the room to greet him. "Fellow student, I remember that you're also a student of our school. Regarding this matter, I think we should maintain close communication." Chen Weisan's memory could be considered excellent, but it was useless. In any case, Luo Nan had no intention of cooperating with this person. His gaze streaked across Chen Weisan's face, and he used his chin to point at Zhu Maoshuan, who was still accumulating rage points. Every injustice has its perpetrator, and every debt has its debtor. As long as we remember him, we don't care about anything else. You guys talk. F***CK. Zhu Maoshuan couldn't take the provocation. He stomped his feet and wanted to hit someone, but the police were right in front of him. His group of friends were afraid that he would suffer a loss, so they pulled him back one after another. Luo Nan was disinclined to pay attention to the fuss over there. He walked straight over. Chen Weiken inexplicably moved his body to the side when faced with Luo Nan's gaze, giving him some space. However, it was difficult for him to correct himself. One figure after another followed, including Tian Si. This beautiful subordinate who had been working by his side for many years was gone. She walked past him expressionlessly. "You're playing this game too?" Chen Weiken felt an impulse and said in a commanding tone, "Tian Si, stay here." Just last weekend, when he spoke like this, Tian Si still showed the respect of a subordinate. Now, Tian Si was indeed reacting. She paused and turned sideways, as if by instinct. But in the next second, she retracted her gaze and completely ignored Chen Weikan, who was right in front of her. She pointed at the police officer who had not spoken for a long time. "Mr. Officer, have you gone through all the procedures?" "Yes." "According to our previous agreement, as long as the relevant party issues an explanation, the guardian can wait until the injury examination is finalized before considering whether or not to notify the guardian." The police officer had been ignored for a long time. Finally, someone seriously asked for his opinion, and his attitude was very good. These changes were all reflected subtly in the living starry sky. How interesting! Luo Nan subconsciously grinned. He wasn't a heart-reading demon. He was unable to see through Yin Li's specific thoughts, but he was able to observe all sorts of details, piecing them together to form an approximate judgment. Right now, Luo Nan relied on his mental senses to deeply enter the vast material plane and the mental plane. He had a rough grasp of the picture of life of tens of thousands of living beings. From this, he formed a relatively abstract living starry sky. He could feel the minute changes created by various factors, such as emotions. As his observation experience grew and his understanding of the development of the situation deepened, the layers, angles, and details that he had unconsciously overlooked in the past gradually gained practical significance. He could more easily organize and generalize, forming a comprehensive, three-dimensional, and intuitive picture of observation. It was like playing a map cheat and playing a strategy game with a group of opponents submerged in the fog of war. There was a sense of superiority in beating him up in all aspects. Of course, if Luo Nan truly believed that he was beating him up in all aspects, it could only mean that Luo Nan had lost his mind. AB+ rank burner. An organized and premeditated action trap. This was the tempo of the base's technology tree rising to the top. If the other party really wanted to make things difficult for him, then he could just use his normal attacks to blow up this side. At this stage, Luo Nan could only play 2 games of hide and seek. Then he would run as far away as he could until the game ended. Pay attention to the one in front. Papercut suddenly sent a warning from the temporary mission window. His gaze is unfriendly. Luo Nan's mind temporarily withdrew from the macroscopic picture. He raised his eyes to look forward. Right now, the group of people were about to enter the elevator in the lobby of the amusement park. And at the edge of the crowded entrance stood a 30-year-old youth. He released his aura, completely unrestrained. He was a burner. This life sketch looks very familiar. Luo Nan quickly confirmed that this person was the one following the B+ rank powerhouse. Perhaps it was because of the strong first impression, but this person's ramrod straight figure looked very much like a soldier, even though he was dressed in casual clothes. This person didn't avoid the gazes of Luo Nan and the others, but he didn't respond either. His gaze swept past their faces one by one, and he just watched quietly. He was like a relatively eye-catching passerby. It looks like he's counting heads. This person seems a bit inexperienced. He's a lackey. A few ability users were discussing in private when Xie Junping suddenly came over and whispered, "He's Zhu Ling. I just saw his photo. There's no mistake." Really? Luo Nan was a bit surprised, but he did see traces of a silhouette that was similar to Zhu Maoxuan's from this person's face. Zhu Ling didn't have that much of an evil aura compared to his cousin. However, his gaze was calm and straightforward. It made people a bit unhappy when they stared at him. The group of people still hadn't figured out how to deal with this when the mission window suddenly flickered and jumped. He Yueyin, who hadn't replied all this time, contacted them through instant messaging. Luo Nan and the others greeted her one after another. "Sister Yueyin." "Hello, Secretary." From the video, it could be seen that Yueyin was multitasking. She was contacting someone. Her brows were slightly furrowed, and she wasn't in a good mood. She hung up after several seconds and focused on this side. "Apologies, Mr. Luo. Apologies, everyone. I just saw this, but there's a matter that just so happens to be related to you." Without any pleasantries, Yueyin sent over an electronic file. The format was extremely formal, and it clearly bore the authority seal of a government department. Yueyin explained further. The Xia City Police and military received a reliable tip that traces of the human-faced arachnid's clone were discovered in the vicinity of Cloud City Water Village. They decided to launch a search operation at the last minute. According to the agreement they reached with the society a month ago, they hope that the nearby members of the society will cooperate. It can't be. Xia City hasn't been swept clean yet? Shuelei had confronted the human-faced arachnid head-on before. He had a deep impression of the formless and shadowless demon. He immediately drew in a cold breath. Papercut was more concerned with practical issues. Did they say how to cooperate? Yueyin opened the electronic file and indicated to Luo Nan and the others to look at the highlighted paragraphs. They demand that all members of the society within a radius of 15 kilometers, with the main building of Cloud City Water Village as the center, must report their current location and go to a designated location to record their privileges. They want to clear the area? Yes. In principle, no ability user is allowed to stay within this area. After recording their privileges, the members who wish to participate must obey the commands of the military and police. The military and political departments and the society will give corresponding rewards. Those who don't wish to participate must quickly leave the scene to avoid the human-faced arachnid's invasion. While Yueyin was explaining, Luo Nan and the others had already waited for the elevator to arrive. They poured into the same elevator. Who knew that Zhu Ling, who had been observing with cold eyes all this time, would suddenly take 2 quick steps forward, openly following them. The gazes of several ability users gouged at Zhu Ling's face at the same time, but Zhu Ling pretended not to notice. Luo Nan sized up Zhu Ling a few times. At the same time, he sent a message through the mission window. This document was sent within 5 minutes, right? 4 minutes and 20 seconds ago. This job. Luo Nan gasped in surprise. He had gotten through all of Xia City's military and political departments in one afternoon. As soon as he failed to lure the human-faced arachnid's clone, he immediately caused a big scene. He even gave the green light all the way. Even the society was mobilized. This further confirmed his previous conjecture. It was very likely that Xia City's military and political departments were leading this operation. He could see their determination even more clearly. Sure enough, Relying on a cheating device to hide and seek wasn't a long-term solution. Leaving the battlefield as soon as possible was the wisest choice. However, the other side didn't want to let go so easily. Luo Nan gave Zhu Ling another glance. He wanted to probe deeper, but he was worried that Mo Pang and the others were present. He cast a glance at Papercut. Papercut understood tacitly. His fat face instantly revealed a pleasantly surprised smile. "Hey? Little Ling, that's you, right?" Zhu Ling was stunned. He didn't have time to react before Papercut grabbed him. "Aha, I'm definitely not mistaken. I've seen your photo before. You look so handsome even without your military uniform." Chapter 4:11. In the elevator, no matter if it was Xie Junping who didn't understand, or Mo Pang, Robio, and the others who didn't know what was going on, they all felt their faces twitch when they saw Zhu Ling, a handsome man with a cold face, being crowned with the title of stupidly cute. The atmosphere was very subtle. Luo Nan was also doing his best to ensure that his facial muscles didn't go out of control. But he had already been named to help out, so he could only say hello. In the end he couldn't help but grin. Little Ling cough, what a coincidence. The temporary mission window jumped and Cat Eyes sent over a one-word evaluation, fake. Of course it's fake. This sort of name that deliberately took advantage of others had more or less broken through Luo Nan's bottom line. Fortunately, Papercut, who was an actor, took on the atmosphere. His affectionate expression didn't diminish, and Zhu Ling wasn't really stupid. He hooked his lips and really called out, "Brother Papercut." In any case, this chance encounter was finally completed. The elevator went down and soon reached the 55th floor. This was the hospital where Chiu Pei was staying. Tianxi came back to her senses at this time. No matter what, she first invited Mo Pang and the other young boys and girls out of the elevator. Then she said to Luo Nan, "Why don't you guys chat first? We'll go see Pei and pick up Xiaofan and the others along the way." Luo Nan shot a glance at Zhu Ling and nodded. Go then. We'll be there in a bit." As he spoke, he winked at Xie Junping, telling the group of people to follow him and not delay things here. Very quickly, the place was cleared. Only the 4 people from the association and Zhu Ling were left. A total of 5 people stood in the elevator, silently confronting each other. When Mo Pang and the others turned around, both sides wiped away their fake expressions. Papercut said unhappily, "You guys from the military do things in such an imposing manner. You ask for access to the human records at the drop of a hat. What's the reason?" The government and the military have the right to ask any law-abiding citizen to show proof of social authority and cooperate in the performance of public security obligations. Zhu Ling stood ramrod straight, enduring the penetrating gazes of several ability users. There was no fear on his face, and his mouth was also very sharp. But in the end, he still narrated the reason that everyone was well aware of. The target of our search is the human-faced arachnid. It is very likely that this kind of dark-sider life form is attached to an ability user's body. It crosses the sea while deceiving everyone. The relevant examination is necessary. Papercut asked, "What about normal people? There are tens of thousands of people upstairs and downstairs, and you want to search them one by one?" Zhu Ling answered simply, "At this stage, the human-faced arachnid that remains will no longer be interested in normal people." Perhaps it was because of this that Zhu Ling had been accompanying them in casual clothes to dilute the hostile atmosphere. When Luo Nan came out, he heard Zhu Ling giving Papercut and the others a job. "Everyone, are you really not going to participate? The rewards for this operation are quite considerable." Papercut grunted and grunted in response. He simply pointed to Luo Nan when he saw him come out. "We'll listen to the boss." Zhu Ling didn't get this internal joke, but he was very clear about Luo Nan's special position in this group of people. Even if he didn't know before, he now knew the things he needed to know after integrating the information he had access to. An extremely dangerous person who could control a mutant, who could use his power to replace the perpetual fortifications with an infrasonic array, and who could instantly turn an entire city district into a land of death. Of course he could be the boss. He had to be the boss. Zhu Ling immediately cast an inquiring gaze. Luo Nan hooked his lips. "I won't be participating tonight. My first priority is to ensure that my family and friends are far away from danger. I hope the military can keep the situation under control. This is our duty." But it's still a pity that I missed an opportunity to fight shoulder to shoulder with Mr. Luo. Zhu Ling deliberately reached over and shook Luo Nan's hand. I'm very sorry. Mao Xuan, that idiot, had eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. I hope that Mr. Luo won't bother with him. Of course, I was also stupid at the time. No matter what Luo Nan thought, Zhu Ling's attitude was impeccable. Luo Nan could tell from this that under his cold and arrogant exterior was an exquisite heart that understood propriety and the ways of the world. Luo Nan always admired this sort of person. He also hoped that he wouldn't become enemies with this sort of person. Otherwise, he would have crushed him to death earlier. Mo Peng gave him a call at this time. Luo Nan grunted twice and said, "We're meeting a few friends. We'll be down soon. You guys can just head downstairs." A message popped up in the mission window at this time. Luo Nan saw it and said, "I've already called a special car. It's in the parking lot on the 4th floor underground. You guys can head there directly. I guarantee that you'll be escorted to your doorstep. In any case, it's near the Nade district, right?" The so-called special car was actually arranged by He Yueyin. She had swapped out the usual security car for a business car. It would be safer to take everyone away early. That thorough? Mo Peng clicked his tongue twice. But he had already been shocked many times today. There was no need to say too much about such a small matter. On the contrary, this phone call verified Luo Nan's words. Zhu Ling had no reason to keep them here. He gestured with his hand, sending them off. The group of people were walking out when Cat Eyes suddenly said, "Hey! This is something that normal people can't do." Papercut sighed. "You youngsters should just play by yourselves. I just want to take care of my family's little store and have a successful blind date along the way." Luo Nan didn't want to participate. He had already begun to pretend to be asleep in the car. In any case, he had drunk strong alcohol in broad daylight. There was a sufficient reason. Right now, he needed to pay full attention to Cloud City Water Village, which was getting further and further away. The Wraith sign was his main focus. If he didn't look after her, the chances of Lu coming out in one piece weren't high. But he couldn't resist Cat Eyes teasing him. "Boss, what are you planning on doing? Are you going to continue being a boss? Or are you going to advance again?" What was advancing again? Luo Nan didn't consider it. And if it was about ideals, he sent a simple message. Formatting theory. Developing formatting theory and restoring his grandfather's reputation were his most pressing desires. These were not secrets within the society. His avatar on the psychic wave network was the classical structure of formatting theory. Cat Eyes seemed to be quite idle. She continued to speak. "Really? Are you sure this is a pursuit and not a habit?" Luo Nan didn't want to discuss such a mysterious topic. He simply used symbols to replace his answer. But with the addition of Cat Eyes, the fulcrum, and multi-angle observation, she was able to erect a relatively perfect observation scene. Not to mention that a portion of the Wraith Arachnid was inserted into the central nervous system of the enemy's brain. With this kind of support, Luo Nan could write his name backwards if the Wraith sign was captured by these people again. However, Luo Nan slowly tasted the flavor. It seemed that the military's capture here wasn't particularly resolute. Lu should have sensed that something was wrong at this time with the society's leaky nature. She already had the tendency to leave before, but now she had a deep conversation with Chen Weikan. She slowly dug deeper and deeper into the essence of a matter of jealousy. Even Fan Chu's illegal operations were exposed. As a manager, he would rather spread his dirty linen in public and affect the image of the company. He didn't even consider cutting losses. What was the reason? It was probably the effect of beating the grass and startling the snake. Cat Eyes stood within the temporarily constructed frontline command center. The large screen in front of her displayed the reality monitoring image of Lu. The straightforward inclination caused her to be a bit surprised. "You guys are suspecting her." "Hey, this is a directional target, right?" Zhu Ling responded simply. "From the intelligence and performance, she's the biggest suspect." Cat Eyes hummed in response. She finally couldn't help but express her doubt in the mission window. Did they eat the wrong medicine? Why are they so generous? He Yueyin responded in a timely manner. "The society has already given you temporary authorization. You are currently the society's main contact in this matter. You possess the relevant authority." This was undoubtedly He Yuan's handiwork. Cat Eyes received this favor. She sent a thumbs-up emoticon, expressing her admiration. At this time, a person walked into the command center. He was dressed very casually. He wore a t-shirt, a sports sweater, jeans, and white sneakers. He had a student's aura off the charts. Plus, he had a personality that loved to laugh. The smile on his face never stopped. Cat Eyes communicated with Luo Nan. There are still ability users applying? I'm a bit unfamiliar. Before she could finish speaking, Zhu Ling had already stood at attention and saluted, Major General Tian. The person who came was undoubtedly Tian Bang. It was rumored that he had undergone modifications at a young age. He was a burner who controlled a regular combat unit. He was also a powerful B+ rank expert. But looking purely at his appearance, he seemed to be younger than Zhu Ling. Luo Nan confirmed, it's Tian Bang without a doubt. His outer appearance could confuse people, but the imprint in his mental domain was real. Luo Nan suddenly thought of something at this time. Ask Tian Bang about his age and the time of his modifications. Got it. Up ahead, Zhu Ling was already waiting outside the elevator. Yinlu had most likely seen him as well. But then, this woman suddenly made a large turn and walked into the washroom to the side. Her assistant and bodyguard stopped outside. Major General Tian? Zhu Ling practically thought that Yinlu was trying to escape, but the command center didn't have an intense reaction. They just smoothly switched to the surveillance of the washroom. Yinlu could be seen standing in front of the sink. She stared blankly at the mirror on the wall for a while. She ignored her exquisite makeup and twisted her head to face the gushing water column. Cat Eyes put herself in Luo Nan's shoes and made a preliminary judgment. She's determined to fight with her life on the line. Hey, I'm talking to you. Luo Nan didn't respond because he was listening attentively. He was listening to the whispered conversation that was currently echoing from within the Wraith Sign's body above the mountain peak of the Blood Soul Temple. The Blood Flame Order didn't choose the communication tools of the secular world. Instead, they used the Wraith Sign to directly communicate with Yinlu. The special intent that was transmitted was undoubtedly that of the Order's High Priest, Mrs. Holder. This leader of the Blood Flame Order didn't involve herself in any messy details. If necessary, they could use a special ceremony to locate and capture the Wraith Talisman. Of course, the premise of all of this was that the human-faced arachnid could survive until then. Luo Nan's mind stirred slightly. He practically wanted to recall the Wraith Sign back and distance himself from this troublesome place. But as he thought about it, he didn't make a move. In front of the sink, Yinlu lightly coughed and slightly opened her mouth. Diluted blood mixed with lipstick flowed down. She closed her eyes and let the water wash over her, washing away as much of her exhaustion and frustration as she could. Release was a method that tested her ability to control herself. She more or less suffered some backlash. But she did not care about the injury. She was only worried about how long the binding command could suppress the Wraith Sign's strong hunting instinct. Deep down, she was quite pessimistic. Roughly half a minute later, Yinlu finally stood up and touched up her makeup so that she wouldn't look too pathetic. Wasting precious time on this could be considered a form of exquisite self-abandonment. While Yinlu was touching up her makeup in the washroom, the military had completely activated their response mechanism. They made sure that they were loose on the outside but tight on the inside. The main route from the washroom, the elevator, to the identification room with recording privileges, as well as several possible escape routes, were all targeted by the debilitating weapon. They could be fired at any time. Tian Bang said that it was strange, but he was already accumulating power and waiting for action. As long as Yinlu made any extreme movements, he would be the first to launch an attack. But after 5 long minutes, they were greeted with a tired, depressed, calm, and cold Yinlu. Aside from her pale complexion, there was nothing abnormal about her. Yinlu took her assistant and bodyguard to the VIP elevator. This was in line with the military's expectations. She just so happened to bump into the guide, Zhu Ling, Manager Yin. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Zhu Ling of the Coastal Defense Army Special Forces Brigade. I've already heard. Search for the human-faced arachnid. Yinlu raised her chin slightly. Her lips curled into a mocking smile. You guys have chosen a good place. Do you think that the brand of Frost River reality is enough for a few rounds? Zhu Ling was speechless. Yinlu was the first to walk to the elevator. Follow the procedure. Hurry up. I still have things to do tonight. Don't waste time. For both parties involved, the following procedure was so smooth that it made people feel complicated. From the time Lu entered the elevator to the identification room, to the time she left, not even 5 minutes had passed. Then, nothing happened. Whether it was the detection equipment or Tianbang's secret spying, they did not find any abnormalities related to the human-faced arachnid. If he punched the air, he would really suffer internal injuries. Even when Lu and her party went downstairs, got in the car and left, the operation personnel gathered around Aurora Cloud City still did not believe it. It was over just like this? Zhu Ling, who walked back, probably had this kind of expression. Tianbang did not comfort his subordinates. He just rubbed his smooth chin and smiled. This time the general staff finally has a chance to perform. Let's execute Plan B. Miss Cat Eyes, it looks like we'll have to fight overtime. Are you going to pay up and leave or stay up late with everyone? Where will the overtime be held? We're not going to move for now. I believe our prey can't run far. Then, is there wine? How about pure grain wine? Okay. If it can be paired with the military's personal combat platform technology catalog, the flavor will be even better. Cat Eyes was playing with the mood while sending a vomiting emoji at the temporary mission window. Strong start but weak finish. What the hell is this? Secretary, hurry up and tell me. Should I stay? He Yuan quickly replied. I suggest you leave. The conflict will most likely occur between Tianbang and the Blood Flame Order. There is no need for a member of the society to get involved. Has the military been rushing towards the Blood Flame Order since the beginning? Tianbang isn't from the military. Ha! There's something going on. He Yuan's reply was cut off. Papercut was afraid that He Yuan would be angry. He hurriedly said, Secretary He, help me analyze this. What in the world is going on tonight? Several seconds passed before He Yuan sent another message. From the looks of it, Tianbang has confirmed that the Blood Flame Order is raising human-faced arachnids for special purposes. From a legal perspective, as long as we can find concrete evidence, we can deal a heavy blow to the Blood Flame Order. But it won't be easy to get rid of the Blood Flame Order. Papercut had a serious attitude towards the discussion. Right now, the city-state development is very obvious. The Blood Flame Order just needs to move out of Xia City in time. Even if they hurt their vitality, they might rise again in a few years. Madam Holder has this ability. Speaking of which, the core strength of the order hasn't increased in recent years, but the business they do is flourishing. Yes. The Castle Financial Group under Madam Holder has been carrying out continuous industrial expansion for the past 2 years. They are no longer limited to just Xia City. They have set a very high stop-loss line. If they were to cut them off quickly, the military and political departments of Xia City might not be able to achieve complete success even if they really wanted to exterminate them. Luo Nan had heard He Yuan mention the concept of a stop-loss line more than once. It was originally a concept in stock trading. It was used to describe the bottom-line thinking when designing tactics and formulating plans. It was a method that He Yuan held in high esteem. If we don't consider legal factors for the time being, there isn't much meaning in targeting a declining order that has focused on commercial development in recent years. And if we really consider legal factors, Tianbang's actions today aren't perfect in terms of procedure. He Yuan's expression was quite tactful, but Luo Nan couldn't help but interrupt when he heard her. Sister Yuan, are you saying that Tianbang's will is very likely involved in this operation? He Yuan didn't directly answer. In any case, the Xia City government has endorsed this operation. Tianbang holds the advantage of legal factors. His combined strength far exceeds that of the Blood Flame Order. Madam Holder is dealing with every move as it comes. At the very least, she is cutting off the human-faced arachnid perfectly. They all have a certain amount of backup. They have some crucial information that we don't possess. The focus of the conflict is likely to shift. Therefore, I suggest that Cat Eyes withdraw early and stay out of this matter. Cat Eyes spoke. I will consider it. At the same time, she sent a message through the living starry sky. So, boss. Cat Eyes adopted a posture of completely obeying his orders, giving Luo Nan quite a bit of pressure. From Luo Nan's perspective, the most realistic consideration was to grasp this opportunity and retrieve the Wraith sign. Actually, Luonan had plenty of opportunities. Whether it was the Blood Flame Order or the military, they had all lost control of the Wraith Sign's current situation. Luonan just needed a thought to drag the Wraith Sign back from the polar domain. From now on, the military and the Blood Flame Order would no longer have anything to do with it. However, just as Yuan analyzed this, there was a factor that needed to be considered. Backup. Regardless of whether or not Tianbang could represent the military, regardless of whether or not the Blood Flame Order had the power to reverse the situation, both sides displayed the confidence that they could overturn the situation at any time. This made Luonan very concerned. Their backup was Luonan's tail. If he didn't handle it properly, it would be the same as adding 2 more powerful enemies to him. What should he do? Luonan didn't immediately reply to Cat Eyes. Instead, he closed his eyes in contemplation. There were too many things to handle. His brain couldn't bear it for a time. He instinctively reached out his hand and touched the loose-leaf notebook on his knees. It was said that a good memory was inferior to a lousy pen. At this time, it was extremely good to be able to write and draw. But right now, the car was full of people. If he wanted to do some creative work, he might really be dragged out and tormented. Mo Pang and Mo Han were capable of doing such things. Luonan changed his method in a flash. He used the external neuron to open up the drawing software for the flexible e-ink screen in his mind. He created a new blank page and began to toss and turn on it. "Boss, are you asleep?" Cat Eyes urged him for the second time. Luonan didn't answer. He organized his thoughts. His goal was very clear. He wanted to retrieve the Wraith Sign and then stop the loss line. The discussion just now gave him a hint. Once you have a goal, you need to consider the worst-case scenario and do your best to avoid it. Set a lower limit for yourself. The Blood Flame Order's methods were worth learning, but it was impossible to sever the connection between Luonan and the Wraith Sign. Any attempt to sever it would be a joke. Once discovered, they would be like ants on a string. No one would be able to escape. In addition, his control over the Wraith Sign was number 1. There was no way he could give it away even if he wanted to. Taking a step back, he could only hide it from others. Luonan had this ability. As long as he didn't alarm the 2 great gods of his own society, there didn't seem to be anyone else in Xia City who could explore the polar domain. At most, he wouldn't let the Wraith Sign appear in the future. Don't let others see it. Hide. 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 Huh? Luonan's mind suddenly went, ding. A light bulb lit up. This was the feeling. God, he actually forgot about that place. Boss. My boss? Cat Eyes was already about to sing a little tune out of boredom. She changed the way she summoned him. Luonan's mind was bursting with inspiration. It was the time for him to write like a god. He first used a few simple keywords to retain his general train of thought. Only then did he divert a portion of his attention. He even carried a bit of excitement as he shouted back, "Shut up! Go drink your wine." TSK. Are you expressing your dissatisfaction with me? Luonan transformed the burst of inspiration into glyphs, pictures, and everything else that could be understood. Everything was simple during this period. He spoke incoherently. "No, Cat Eyes. I need you. I really need you." "Yes, that's it." "What?" "Right now you just wait there. Wait until..." Luonan suddenly opened his eyes. He turned his head to ask the driver, "Around what time do we get home?" Luonan had been resting with his eyes closed all this time. His sudden words really did give the driver a scare. Finally, this professional driver passed the test. He quickly guessed the answer, around 9:30 at the latest. Luonan made an okay gesture. It was just like the tactical movements Cragburst had taught him. There was a strong sense of ritual. As for whether the driver understood or not, it was none of his business. "Listen, Cat Eyes. You wait there until around 10 o'clock. There's still an hour. Will the overtime be that long? Relax. They'll be very busy tonight. You too. I'll contact you again." Chapter 4:14. The night sky was misty, and the street lights extended one after another, merging into the lights on both sides. It was the time when the night view of the city was at its most beautiful. The neighborhood was also brightly lit. There were even people holding parties at home. It was very lively. Luonan raised his head to look at the night sky. His feet didn't walk in a straight line. It seemed that his eyes were a bit hazy from sleep, and his soul was in a trance. Mo Peng was filled with admiration towards Luo Nan's ability to sleep just like that. At the same time, Mo Peng was filled with admiration towards Luo Nan's ability to mingle in Acumen College by himself. In response, Mo Peng's curiosity was about to climb out of his throat. How did you do it? I didn't see any talent like yours in 6th High. Hey, wake up. Ha! Luo Nan pulled his gaze away from the night sky and looked straight ahead. It could be seen that he really hadn't heard it, but his eyes were frighteningly bright. TSK, when did this kid learn to wear contact lenses? They had already arrived at the doorstep of their home. Mo Peng seized the last opportunity to move closer and embrace Luo Nan's neck. Come. Tell me. How did you get into that circle? Before he could finish his sentence, the door opened. Luo Shuqing stood at the door and stared at them. What are you mumbling about when you're already home? Oh, who drank? He sigh. Mo Peng's elbow loosened, and he watched as Luo Nan tunneled under his elbow like a loach. He tunneled in and out from Luo Shuqing's side, breaking through the living room's defenses in the blink of an eye. He scuttled up to the 2nd floor and tossed down a few words from afar. I went to bed early today. Mo Haihang, who was sitting idly in the living room, raised his head. He looks pretty excited. Did he really drink too much? Luo Shuqing was stunned for a moment, and then loudly ordered, I want to take a bath. She faintly heard Luo Nan agree. Only then did she turn her head to stare at Mo Peng. Where did you guys go to play today? Why are you so drunk? Don't you know she's still a minor? Mo Peng was blocked at the door. His face was full of grief and indignation. He cursed in his heart, if you want to scold people, go find someone to drink. Who is your son? Perhaps it really was because of the effects of alcohol. Luo Nan entered his own room, closed the door, and leaned against the door. His heart thumped loudly and his chest faintly trembled. Of course, the most important reason was still nervousness. Whether it was the battle with Jack on the recycling stratum, the confrontation with the Order of Justice at Frost River Reality, or the conflict with the Society at Ocean Sky Cloud City, all of these were sudden incidents. He had been forced to a dead end, so he had no right to be nervous. This was the first time he had acted according to his own will. The more he thought about it, the more excited he became. Luo Nan took a deep breath and placed the notebook in his hands on the windowsill. Below it was his grandfather's notebook. The two notebooks fit together perfectly, without the slightest deviation. Glancing at the bedside clock, it was 9:37. The driver's estimation was quite accurate. There was still time. He went to the bathroom and turned on the shower. The hot water sprayed out and the steam quickly covered the bathroom. Even if his aunt hadn't mentioned it, he would have taken a hot bath. He stood naked under the water column, the hot water splashing on his head and rolling on his body. This caused the blood flow to accelerate, the metabolism rate to increase, and the liver function to operate effectively. This accelerated the decomposition of alcohol in the body, turning it into hot sweat that was mixed with the water and seeped out. The steam was stuffy and humid, but his mind became clearer and clearer, and it did not affect him from continuing to outline his plan. His draft plan. The drawing software page in his mind seemed to have become much richer. In particular, the outline of the streets around the large living area had changed from rough to detailed. The key details, such as the layout of the military personnel that he had detected earlier, were also clearly depicted. It was as if there was an invisible assistant helping him complete the post-production work. Luo Nan scratched his head and thought back to the nap he had in the car just now. He still had some vague memories. Could it be that there really was a subconscious action in that dream just now? If there was, then it should be the combined effect of self-awareness, soul strength, external neuron, and special drawing software. It looked quite marvelous, but there were precedents in the society. Mr. Bai's dream entering technique was this type of approach. Luo Nan didn't plan on diverting his attention to research for the time being. He hastily washed up and confirmed that most of the alcohol had been released from the steam. Then he wiped his body dry and lay back on the bed. The effects of the alcohol had been reduced to a minimum, but he was still excited. It was especially obvious after he closed his eyes. Luo Nan read through the draft plan step by step with these thoughts in mind. His thought sketched out a large background screen, and the corresponding train of thought flowed on the virtual drawing. Unknowingly, His consciousness floated past the boundary between the real and the virtual, touching upon the twin fulcrums formed by the human-faced arachnid and cat eyes. The living starry sky 80 kilometers away and the scene of reality were mapped over. Even though he hadn't personally experienced the scene, everything he saw was true. His thoughts traversed the air and locked onto his target. Layers of ripples undulated within the wine cup. Cat Eyes held the wine cup and looked at the fine ripples within. Her thoughts moved away from the flexible screen in her other hand and she seemed to be deep in thought. Two soft sounds rang out. Zhu Ling had temporarily assumed the role of an orderly. He placed 2 small plates on the coffee table and matched them with chopsticks. Then he quietly left. A plate of boiled peanuts and a plate of cold pig head meat. They were the most ordinary of dishes. However, this was the frontline command center of Aurora Cloud City. A lounge next to it. The air was filled with the fragrance of wine. From the perspective of military morale, it was indeed necessary to open up a separate lounge. I feel like something's wrong. Pure grain wine doesn't have side dishes to go with it. What's the point? Tianbang picked up a peanut and sent it to his mouth. He paired it with a mouthful of wine and his features wrinkled up on his excessively young face. He looked like a glutton. Then he leaned back comfortably and leaned against the back of the sofa. Even though it's just a side dish, the control of the heat is quite attentive. Cat Eyes shot him a glance. She was very interested in the changes in his expression. Tianbang was amused. Aren't you curious? How can a robot have a taste? Cat Eyes was speechless for a time. Tianbang's features stretched out once more as he looked up at the ceiling. The lights of the lounge shone on his face, glistening and sparkling. His face couldn't be considered particularly handsome, but the contours were clear and distinct. It truly had the texture of a sculpture. It also made one curious. What proportion of the metal structure was hidden beneath his skin? He extended 3 fingers and placed them horizontally in front of his face. The human body transformation must retain 3 points. The first is perception. This is the boundary between you and me. The second is thought. Through it, one can grasp the power of experience. The third is emotion. Through this, one can obtain vitality and spirituality. Only by retaining these 3 points, or by strengthening and transforming on these 3 points, can it be considered a success. Cat Eyes swirled the wine in her cup. Are there still people who don't transform like this? Generally speaking, it was after the burner technology appeared. Therefore, I am very grateful to the creator of this technology. It may not be perfect, but it leads to the correct reasoning. Tianbang stretched out his arms and curled them up. Looking at it with the naked eye, one could see the flow of his muscles. However, Cat Eye's sensitive ears could still hear the fine sound of metal scraping against each other. Having experienced the stupid old-fashioned transformation, I can understand this point even more. I am very envious of those who walk the right path from the start. I yearn even more for the outstanding ones. Cat Eyes swirled her wine cup and suddenly laughed in spite of herself. You are very sensitive. I didn't say anything. Really? Tianbang put on a look of surprise. Fine. I'm just being honest. I feel a bit inferior. I'm also using this to express my feelings. There should be people watching me right now, right? Tianbang's gaze pierced over with his final words. Though he was smiling, his gaze was filled with pressure. Luonan's heart spasmed, and Cat Eyes raised her eyebrows. The two were on the living starry sky plane. Their consciousnesses were connected. At this time, the mission window on the psychic wave network jumped. Papercut, who had returned home, sent a message. Hiss. This fellow. Shuele quickly responded. He knows that we're sharing a perspective. Yes. He was talking about the psychic wave network. Luonan's taut heartstrings relaxed. He saw Tianbang raise a finger. This is an old trick of your society. And I know that there must be someone I know. Cat Eyes asked with interest. Who is it? Well. Tianbang suddenly leaned forward and shouted. Hello, Sister Yuan. Let's drink later. I'll confess to you when I get drunk. His voice was very loud. Even the private lounge could not withstand it. The sound waves rushed out and scattered throughout the frontline command center. Not only were there technical elites of the military here, but there were also police bureaucrats and members of the government security department. The atmosphere was bewildered and awkward for a time. Zhu Ling, who was temporarily in command, had a headache. He even began to doubt his life. Was it really the right decision for him to transfer to the Special Forces Brigade? Ha 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 ha. Cat Eyes burst into laughter. She rocked back and forth, so much so that her hair covered her eyes. She brushed it aside, revealing her plump forehead. She could not help but sigh in admiration. Truly extraordinary courage. At the same time, she sent a private message to Luo Nan. Do you want to get rid of him? He's trying to steal your secretary. What does this have to do with me? Luo Nan was inexplicably unhappy. The temporary window strangely quieted down. There was no movement. However, Papercut and the others were certainly behind the window with their ears and eyes open. They were paying close attention. As for whether or not He Yuan was there, she was probably there. Cat Eyes didn't care about what the others were feeling. She raised her cup to Tianbang and said, "You're quite an interesting person. Come come come. Cheers." Tianbang cheerfully raised his cup in response. I've always felt that special people like us don't need to worry about our livelihood. Then in this world, honesty is the greatest virtue. Cheers to honesty. The two raised their cups and clinked. They were in high spirits as they drank to their heart's content. Finally, Papercut couldn't hold it in any longer at the mission window. He asked the others for their thoughts. Nanster, are you still watching? Luo Nan didn't reply. He just lay on the bed. His excited emotions had returned, and they were undulating like waves. This wasn't his first time experiencing this. It was the same last time. He was also in the position of a spectator. However, the spectators weren't the two people in front of him. They were Peony and Long 7. Whether it was Peony, Long 7, or the current Tianbang, their personalities were all different. However, all of them had outstanding personalities. They were thickly painted characters. They could be recognized at a glance when placed in a crowd. It could be said that they radiated radiance in all directions. In comparison, Luo Nan was like an incorporeal soul. He floated in the nothingness, hiding behind the shadows. He watched these people radiate with dazzling radiance, painting the otherwise ordinary environment with magnificent colors. Though he had similar experiences, he might not be able to achieve that calm and composed, magnanimous and fearless style in his entire life. He always believed that this was a factor of personality. Perhaps this was indeed the case. However, Tianbang's words today pointed out another crucial factor. He had to be honest. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.